Oh, good Lord in heaven, what a stupendous weekend of football. Welcome back to the Chiseled Adonis 2018 NFL Week 11 post-game show. I am obviously the host, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. And I must say, like I opened it up with, it was a phenomenal weekend of football, man. Great games, some games down to the wire, high scoring here and there, some defensive games going down as well. I really enjoyed myself thoroughly. Might I add, usually I like to do the pregame videos sponsored by MyBookie.AG, but however, throughout this week, we got ourselves a special promotion over there on MyBookie.AG because the game tomorrow afternoon, I believe it is the Lions taking on the Bears. That one on MyBookie.AG, it's going to be a great promotion. Why? Because it is free. All right, you got a free betting up to, you can win back whatever the hell it is that you bet. You can get up to $250 back if you lose. So you're pretty much betting with house money right now. So every single one of you who's out there trying to win some money, I would tell you, go to MyBookie.ag tomorrow. Make your bets prior to kickoff between the Bears taking on the Lions, and you can win you some money. And if you lose, you got nothing to worry about because you're going to get your money back. So you're playing with house money. Be smart out there. Go bet a good number, but just only up to $250. So if you're trying to get your money back, you can put $250 down and then bet whether it's the money line, the over, under, whatever it is. I'm going to break it down tomorrow morning. You're going to see what my picks are, and then you can go win yourself some money. Why? Because you know I'm Nostra Adonis. When I make my predictions, they happen to happen. But then again, at the same time, it's usually isolated plays where it's interception here and there. When it comes to winning games, I'm not too sure what my win and loss record is throughout the season. But we ain't talking about that right now. We talking about that great deal in MyBookie.ag, the promo code Chiseled Adonis. Might I add, it's on the damn screen once you go there, so you don't need to go search to go find it where the hell the promotion is at. It's there on the website, so go and give it a look. Now, let's break down the games. We're going to start with the Thursday night football game between the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Green Bay Packers, in which the Seattle Seahawks went down the field, took the lead, and held on to the lead to defeat Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Number one, I believe the score was 27-24. That is indeed what it was in my head, and I had it written down. It is indeed the score. I was correct. Now, Aaron Rodgers, this one's on him. We saw what happened when he played against the Rams. Ty Montgomery pretty much fumbled the ball away. You saw when he played against New England, you had a situation where, was it Jamal Williams or was it Aaron Jones? Whatever one it was. They fumbled the ball. He couldn't get the ball back. Brady, back-to-back scores. Now, this particular game, you had yourself they went 3 and out. They couldn't convert and move the chains. And then after that, Mike McCarthy elected to punt the ball rather than go for it on second, or I should say 4th and 2. However, Aaron Rodgers should have converted on the 3rd down, but he threw the pass far too low. It didn't get deflected. He wasn't under immense pressure. That's a regular pass that he would always make, and he dropped the ball. This game here, not only can we, bring up, the failures of the coaching of Mike McCarthy, but this one primarily on Aaron Rodgers. He got to get it done, period. Seattle went out there, they took care of the football. They went out there, they were able to run the football effectively as well. Might I add, Seattle over the past, 5 games, they've been running the football phenomenally. All right, they're out there playing some great football defensively. They're not where they were, of course. You're not going to reach those levels with the guys that you got now, but they're doing way better defensively now than they were earlier in the season. So you might want to watch out for Seattle. Originally, I didn't think this team could surge and make their way into the playoffs, but you know what? Right now, they're feeling like a wild card team that can be dangerous. All right, now, granted, we know they play great at home, but on the road, they're a whole different team. So we'll see how things play out. But 10 weeks into the season, or I should say over the course of the past 5 weeks, Seattle looks starting to look like a great football team, man. Seriously. For the Packers, they got to get their heads out of their ass. But then again, you got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. We know their liability is on their defensive side, and then also there's some play calling and some coaching that has to play a role as well. But remember, Aaron Rodgers is the same person who says we're going to run the table, and where they found themselves, NFC Championship. He's the same guy who said relax, where they found themselves, winning the division and in the postseason. All right, so I'm not going to count out Aaron Rodgers. They got a tough schedule coming ahead. But can his arm, can his greatness counter out, or I should say usurp the downside of his team. We'll see how things play out down the line. But great win by Seattle. Next, Cowboys taking on the Falcons. Ezekiel Elliott owned this entire game. All right, I believe he had about 100 all-purpose yards. He had over 100 on the ground, nearly 100 through the air. Julio Jones caught his third consecutive touchdown on the year. Was it enough to help the Falcons win? Absolutely not. The Falcons are done. Their season's over. There's no coming back from here. It's extremely tough. The distance between them and the Panthers, it may look like it's small, but it's not. The Falcons still have to play the Saints, I believe, twice. That is looking like L's right now. Defensively, they're still struggling, although we know the injuries here and there, but at one point, you're used to this at this point. You know they got injuries. You got to be able to pick it up. It's the same thing with the Eagles, but I'll get to them a little bit later. But it's tough for the Falcons because offensively they're not as high powered as we thought they were going to be. You thought Matt Ryan would be able to hit the Sanu's, hit the Julio Jones, hit the Ridley. Early in the season it looked like that was the case because Ryan's actually not having a bad season, but it's not enough to usurp their defensive woes. Now for the Cowboys, back-to-back wins, and all of a sudden, they back into the race for the NFC East. I don't know what that sound was, but I guess it's a good sound. It sounds good when you're doing good football. But nonetheless, I know all the Cowboys fans now. We back now. We got Dak, we got Zeke, we going to the Super Bowl. Van Der Esch looking like a Pro Bowler, which he is. I really like Thad Castle back there at linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Smith playing at an all-pro level, I might add as well. But Cowboys, great win. Dominated this. If they want to go and move forward and possibly scheme and get this NFC East title, they can do it if they keep handing the ball to Zeke and running the football the way that they run, because they start to open up the playbook. Now Dak is starting to look much more comfortable. He's still missing some throws here and there, but he's doing just enough to, when they get the lead, they hold on to it. So good win for the Cowboys. Falcons, you guys talk about rise up. Evidently, that L column, it's rising up. Next game, all right, we had the Bengals taking on the Ravens. Bengals traveling out there to Baltimore. What Baltimore did, handed them that L. Lamar Jackson started. What I told you. I told you between week 8 to week 11, at the beginning of the season, this is when you'd see Flacco end up either getting, he'd get benched, he'd get hurt, something would happen. Lamar Jackson's the quarterback. What happened? Lamar Jackson first start. This man ran for, what was it, 129 yards or something like that? We could talk about his throwing down the line, but him running the football, he's a dual threat guy. He's a run first. It reminds me a lot of Cordell Stewart. This guy take the snap. It's not even like he's trying to throw the ball. It's, I'm gone. Bam. First down, down the field. Alex Collins in the red zone, touchdown. All right, for the Bengals, you guys started off, what was it, 4-1, 5-2, and then bam. Told you. At one point, I believe it was week 2 when I said it, and I was out there in Georgia. I said the Bengals are going to find a way to Cincinnati themselves out of wherever the hell they are. And look at them now. They Cincinnati themselves at the top of the division. Now they in 3rd place, I believe, behind Baltimore. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Cincinnati had all this hope coming into this season. It's not like they've been dealing with super injuries. That's my phone going off. They're just struggling. Period. They gotta play better. Tyler Boyd is looking phenomenal, my ad. He's looking great, but they gotta play better. The Bengals missing one player here, one player there, stuff like that. But you can see it's them self-destructing from within. It starts with Marvin Lewis. He needs to go. They need a culture change. They got to bring somebody else in. For Baltimore, this was a great win. Much needed win. Because defensively, they've been underachieving. Although you see the numbers are always going to be there. But when it comes to stopping people at crucial moments, they've been underachieving. This game, they stepped up to the plate. Granted, Bullock ended up missing the game-tying field goal, but nonetheless, great win for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson down the line, I'd like to see him throw the ball much more effectively to where it becomes believable, similar to what we saw with Blake Bortles down in Jacksonville. But I need him to go out there and start throwing the ball on the ground. We know you can run. We know you can run, but we need to take you seriously as a quarterback, because I can guarantee you this. You're going to continue to see this man as a flex option on the offense where he comes in. He's lined up at receiver. They got him motioning as if he's going to get a jet sweep. They only got him in there as a runner. If that becomes the case and teams start daring you to pass, you better be able to pass or you're going to be in a Tebow situation, man. But I wish this man the best. Great W for the Ravens flock in the Baltimore Ravens. Next game, Panthers taking on the Lions. The Lions held down the fort. They defeated the Carolina Panthers. I'll say this. Ron Rivera went for it at the end of the game, tried to go for 2. I didn't agree with the call because he did say in the post game conference, "Oh, we were on the road. We didn't come here for a tie game. We came here to win." But this was being done in the fourth quarter. You still had overtime to go. On top of that, the play call for the 2-point conversion, as my phone goes off once again, I thought when they have Cam there and he doesn't have time, he was gonna run. It was as if he threw the ball away and knew they had another play. That's not. There's the 2-point conversion, dog. I thought he was going to run it in. Now, granted, you saw him get a little bit banged up early in the game. You had something happen to his ankle, so I don't know if he was still feeling the injuries and it was ailing him while he was there. But I was shocked that he didn't run the ball. Now, granted, Carolina went out there. The only people who showed up was DJ Moore and Cam. For the most part, they didn't really run the ball effectively. Defensively, they kind of underachieved. Matt Stafford hit, I believe it was a Galladay for a touchdown. Also, I think he got on Marvin Jones as well. Carryon Johnson got into the end zone. No, not Marvin Jones. Carryon Johnson caught one. Marvin Jones didn't catch one, and Galladay got one as well. But Detroit, great performance. But I can't sing their praises outside of just this win because I know this isn't going to be something consistent. Granted, on the defensive side of the ball, they played much better regarding taking some receivers out of the game. I can't recall if Slay was back in the lineup or not. I cannot recall. I feel like I looked at that while I was watching the rest of the game, but I can't recall if he was in the game or not. But whatever the case was, the corners did their job for the most part. But this one falls on Ron Rivera. This one falls on Cam Newton because this was a game that they needed to bounce back off of that rout from taking on Pittsburgh. They needed this game, and now that gap between them and the Saints, it's widening. And they need to be able to keep pace because not only are you in a situation where now it's looking as if you have no chance to win your division, you're stuck in a wild card situation where the guys like the Cowboys, they're catching up. You got Washington who might fall down and now they're in the wild card slot, so now it's becoming congested there. You got a Seattle who's coming up as well. Too many teams in that area. Carolina needs to get their W so they can solidify that spot because at one point, let's say 2 weeks ago, going into the game against Pittsburgh, we said Carolina's going to be a wild card team. They continue to slip like this, they'll mess around and find themselves out of the playoffs. All right, but great win for Detroit. Next game, the Titans taking on the Colts. I did not expect the Titans to go and drop an egg like they did this particular game. The Colts absolutely mollywopped them. Granted, they said something about Andrew Luck is undefeated against the Colts, or he won the last 10 matchups or something like that. Whatever the case was, Andrew Luck went out there and looked as if he knew their entire defense and methodically, meticulously took his team down the field. Bam, I got T.Y. Hilton for a touchdown. Bam, I got T.Y. for another touchdown. Eric Ebron tried to throw one to Andrew Luck, but he said, "What happened to my hits?" Couldn't catch it. He went to the Tom Brady quarterback school of catching the football. It was ridiculous. He couldn't catch it. But nonetheless, great game for the Colts all around. All right, they played phenomenally defensively because they took Derrick Henry out of the game. They took pretty much Marcus Mariota couldn't do anything. The only person who was able to score offense for the damn Titans was when Blaine Gabbert threw himself a touchdown. And that's at the end of the game when nobody cared because the necrophilia had already been finished at that point. All right, but it's a great game for the Colts. And I must say this, their offensive line has completely turned this around because we were constantly asking questions about, can they block for Andrew Luck? Can they keep Luck from getting hurt? Can we keep him from getting banged up? And what happened? You draft somebody like a Quentin Nelson and all of a sudden, bam, offensive line stupendous. Stupendous. I don't even know if they gave up a sack this particular game because I knew coming in they haven't given up a sack in 4 games. So this was a great game for them. The Colts are now in a wild card situation out there in the AFC. Moreover, a chance to possibly catch those Texans to take their spot because we know the Texans started 0-3 and then they won, what was it, 7 in a row? 7 in a row, I believe. And now the Colts only 2 games back. We got ourselves a battle for that AFC South out there. The Titans and the Colts are now with the same record because the Colts started 1-5, and bam, 4 straight wins, and here you are now at 5-5. So things are starting to get spicy out there. But great game for the Colts. I am now shifting the Colts over the Titans. They are the better team at this current moment. Next game, congratulations to the Colts. Next game, Giants taking on the Bucks. Bucks traveled out there to the Meadowlands. Fitzmagic turns into Fitztragic, throws himself 3 interceptions on 3 consecutive drives. One for a pick 6, one ends their drive while they're surging, and then the next one to open up the second half. What happens? Here comes Jameis, goes in there and throws what? I believe it was 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, whatever the case was, brought them all the way back. For the Giants, Saquon Barkley, phenomenal game. 3 touchdowns, over 150 yards all-purpose. Eli Manning not turning the football over. There was some that probably should have been intercepted, but nonetheless, we ain't gonna talk about that. We gotta keep it on the high note right there. Then JPP got himself a sack as well. But for the most part, the Giants did enough to win the game and not give the game away, because in the second half, it looked like one of those games where the Bucs were gonna pull off some sort of miracle and come back. But the Giants did just enough. Those interceptions from Fitztragic cost the Bucs an opportunity to come back. Now, I don't know what the quarterback coach out there in Tampa is, but whoever it is, that man need to be fired. He must have been like Frank Reich out there, who used to play for Dan Buffalo. He's coaching for the Colts now, but they must have some sort of relation with that man, whereas I'm the backup, I'm gonna come in the game and save the day. All of a sudden now, when we think, yo, we ain't got no, we got faith in him, and then bam, it's terrible. I don't know what that cycle is, but Fitzmagic and Jameis, I think both of them gonna have to go. I don't know what they're doing out there in Tampa, but they might have to follow the blueprint of what Minnesota did when they had Case Keenum, Bridgewater, and Bradford, and then they start this year, all 3 of them gone. So that's what they need to do down in Tampa. Get rid of those quarterbacks, man, because it's some sort of curse. I don't know what's going down, but great win for the Giants. Do I think that they have hope now that they got 3-7? Division leader being the Redskins, they're 6-4, and then you got the middle of the pack where you have the Cowboys at 5-5, and I believe the Eagles are 4-6. So it's extremely close, but I have no faith in the Giants turn this around. You just happen to win back-to-back games against terrible teams. When they start playing against other teams, I'd highly doubt they get those W's. Now, granted, the Eagles, they're not a horrible team at all. However, they got ton of injuries in the secondary. I'll get to that a little bit later. Next, the Texans taking on the Redskins. First, before I even get into this game, prayers going out to Alex Smith. It's unfortunate what happened. It seemed like it was some sort of, I don't want to say destiny, but some weird thing going down where they had the same exact day to when Joe Theismann broke his leg on football, the game against Lawrence Taylor and the Giants. Darn near the same yard line, just on the opposite side of the field. 33 years apart. The only number of retired for the Redskins is 33. It was very weird. There was a post that had it. I ended up finding on like NFL memes. I'll probably throw it in there during the video. I'll end up cutting it up or something like that. But man, it was trippy. But the Redskins almost did enough to win this game. But lo and behold, they missed the opportunity to take the lead down the line. But you know, Alex Smith did throw a pick 6 before he did get hurt. And then Colt McCoy ended up relieving him. The Texans, they did just enough offensively. Defensively, they did what they do. You know, they got some turnovers. They got to the quarterback. The Redskins were caught in a shock sort of mode. Adrian Peterson got into the end zone twice, thus passing Riggins for number 6 all time. Ironically, you know, Riggins was a Redskin. You pass a Redskin, but nonetheless, it was a good game. Texans were able to, you know, hold on to the lead and get themselves that W, and they won a number of games consecutively. So this is good for the Texans. They're continuing to hold that stranglehold over the AFC South. So we'll see how things play out now with, like I said, the Colts playing the way that they're playing down the line. But great win for them. For Alex Smith, get well soon. Hopefully this is not the end of your career. But for the Redskins, it's desperation mode now, because you just lost 4 starters in the past 3 weeks. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going down right now. Adrian Peterson was saying, I'm feeling as healthy as I always ever had. Well, guess what, buddy? You're going to have to feel 1,000 times healthy, because the whole entire game plan is about to turn into you getting all them carries. It's going to feel like Minnesota in 2012. But good win for the Texans. Next game, we had the Steelers taking on the Jags. The Jags blew a 16-0 lead. Now, I'll say this. A lot of people coming at the Steelers talking about, well, you guys always play down to the competition. Let me tell you something about matchups. Because when you match up with a certain team, you're always going to have issues. Like, for example, what teams always have problems? Seattle taking on the Rams, right? If Seattle could have a completely injury-decimated sort of season, but when they play against the Rams, it's always going to look like, wait a minute, this team shouldn't be able to do this to you, because they know each other. When you play against opponents like that, it's a matchup thing. Not only do you know each other and it can be something in division, it's a matchup sort of thing. Jacksonville matches up with Pittsburgh phenomenally. Phenomenally, because offensively, that's the Pittsburgh strength. Defensively, that's the Jacksonville strength. Up front, Jacksonville's front defensive line, they can go head to head with Pittsburgh's offensive line. Pittsburgh has one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. Jacksonville has one of the better front sevens in the NFL. But moreover, they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They weren't ranked number 3 for no reason. They may be underachieving right now, but those same guys who were there last year and going to Pro Bowls and making people feel like, whoa, this could be one of those greatest of all time sort of defenses. Those same guys are still there. And when they pumped up and you be like, man, like James Farrier used to say, it's a 5-star matchup because we in it. This was one of those situations and they came to play. They ran the ball way too much, and I'll say this about Jacksonville. The reason why they lost this game is because they played it the same way they played the AFC Championship. You got yourself a lead, all of a sudden, let's just try to hold on to it rather than extend it. Now, granted, that could turn into something like, I hate this analogy, but a double-edged sword, because you saw what happened with Atlanta in the Super Bowl. Rather than, yo, we got this large lead, let's conserve it, it went into, yo, let's keep trying to gunsling, and then what happened? You ended up costing yourself the game. But in Jacksonville's case, they didn't even try to throw the ball. They were extremely one-dimensional, and they made 0 adjustments in the second half. And that's what cost them. You've seen all season, Pittsburgh is the best second quarter team in the league. But they came out in the second quarter and they laid an egg. Again. But in the second half, they did what they would usually do in the second quarter, made a complete adjustment to everything. All of those runs that were succeeding for Jacksonville up the middle, those were nullified. I think going into halftime, Leonard Fournette had like 70 yards. Second half, he only had like 20. And they kept trying to run. They went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. I don't even know how many first downs they got in the second half. Probably about 1, 2, maybe 3. Maybe 3. And defensively, they kept screwing themselves because you kept getting a defensive holding here, illegal hands to the face, roughing here, all this other stuff. They shot themselves in the foot, and Pittsburgh stayed resilient, went down the field and won these games. Came back from 16 down and then won the game. Now, granted, this is resilient. It's an ugly win, but these happen in football. You got to be able to win blowouts. You got to be able to win shootouts, and then you also have to be able to win these nasty games where you're down and you have to show your character and come back. And this is what builds championship sort of teams. And that's the difference between a 6-game winning streak and a 6-game losing streak. You saw it there. Jacksonville was on the sideline feeling themselves halfway through the third quarter, laughing and playing as if the game was over, and then what happens? You allow a team to come back where you should have been able to put them away. That's the coaching and their attitude that did that to them. But good win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next, you had the Raiders taking on the Cardinals. The Raiders won the game. I was surprised. I was not ready for that because Daniel Carlson went and kicked the game-winning field goal. In fact, he won the Special Teams Player of the Week for the AFC. I am perplexed. I am astounded. Wasn't ready to see that. But the Raiders took care of business. Derek Vehicle was actually, careful with the football. There were some questionable calls here and there. Josh Rosen made some great passes. I believe Larry Fitzgerald got into the end zone a couple of times. But it just wasn't enough. Both these teams were extremely bad. I'd love to get more into it, but they're bad football teams. But it's a good win for the Raiders. Could you believe I continued my entire soliloquy? Could you believe I continued my entire soliloquy up until the end of where I believe the video was supposed to be finished, but it cut off before I could even say good game for the Raiders to win? Now I gotta finish up these last 4 games. I done broke so much stuff down and the camera done died. It doesn't even tell me how much battery percent left. It said 3 bars remaining. It was only 3 bars as the max. So granted, I thought the camera was at full. Evidently it was at Fox full. It really was 1 remaining and it cut off. This is ridiculous. I can't remember what I said, but I was at the end of the Raiders-Cardinals game. But when we get into the Broncos and the Chargers, I'll try to salvage what was left in my mind. The Chargers dropped the ball. Defensively, they've had this issue all year. They're giving up a lot of yards. All right, they got some names defensively. You had Bosa come back. Ingram still doing what he's doing. You had the alleged defensive player of the year. I shouldn't say alleged. He's a candidate. And Derwin James back there, the rookie defensive player of the year. Not overall, but I mean, that's Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, and Von Miller, and all the other guys like that. But we ain't talking about that right now. You still got some names out that corner. You got a King, a Desmond King. You also got Hayward that's out there. But they're giving up a lot of yards, and you saw it happen this particular game. because you had a guy like Cameron, so you had Sutton and Sanders. They didn't score, but they were able to get big time catches to put their team in the position to win. You also had a situation where Philip Lindsay was running all over their defense, and you had mental errors, coaching errors, things where people just did stuff that didn't make any sense. Because a first down pass from Phillip Rivers to Antonio Gates in the fourth quarter, with I believe less than 2 minutes left to go or 3 minutes left to go, that should have put him in a position to win the game. But what happens? Instead of let's run the ball and hand the ball to Melvin, what are you guys doing? Let's throw the ball. Phillip Rivers now is third down, second down, or something like that. Rather than just fall on the floor, keep the chain, I should say keep the clock going, you throw the ball into the dirt or throw the ball away. You stop the damn clock. You give the Broncos an opportunity to get the ball back. I don't understand. This makes me remember what happened last year in the game against Jacksonville, where they should have defeated the Jaguars. But again, mental errors. Trey Boston catch an interception. Rather than go and return it, this man stands here for a little bit, enjoys what it is that he did, and I'm gonna go and run out of bounds. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. The Chargers cannot allow these sort of losses to happen to them when it's mental errors and they defeat themselves, because we've seen it time and time again, year in, year out. They're in a ton of games. Their margin of losses regarding points has always been small whenever they lose these games over the past, I'd say, 7 years. But what happens? It becomes contagious, as Jarvis Landry would say. They lose this one game where they screwed themselves. All of a sudden, they find themselves down the line. Don't find yourself turning into the Kansas City Chiefs of old. Don't find yourself turning into the Atlanta Falcons of old. Don't do that. You guys have way too much potential to go out there and let these mental errors lose the game for you. Might I add, Case Keenum, I'll give the Denver Broncos some credit because they stayed, resilient down the line. This is a divisional matchup, so these guys know each other. All right, Von Miller was still going out there getting a sack. It was his number 100. It was his 100th on his career. Got himself a stupendous interception. Possibly could have been a pick six, but I guess he wasn't doing too much sprinting this particular week where his speed wasn't up to par. He got caught from behind, but nonetheless, the Chargers defensively, it starts with those guys. They need to go out there and help their offensive out, but then coaching and mental errors cannot have brain farts like that. When you have an opportunity to put the game away, put the game away. I said it earlier in the video regarding the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got a chance to put the game away and put your foot down on somebody's throat. You need to take the shot, and what happened? Chargers done screwed themselves. Not only can you, when you're deep and late in the game like that, put it away, play smart. Don't try to, let's go extend. No, don't try to get chicken and fancy. Hand the ball off, run the clock, put them in a situation where they don't have time, because I can guarantee you, had they ran the ball on that third down and the Broncos wasted that timeout, when Emmanuel Sanders caught the ball and brought them down the field, when Sutton caught the ball and brought them down the field, they wouldn't have enough time to get that field goal unit on the field, because a lot of things would have changed. All right, they wouldn't be able to waste the downs that they were able to waste. Now I can guarantee you more time would have been off the clock when you would have, go and punt the ball back. You gotta play smart football, man. Seriously, it upset me because I don't like when I see people play dumb football. Next game, Falcons and the Saints. No, the Eagles and the Saints. Necrophilia. The Eagles had issues all year regarding injury, both sides of the ball, but they have underachieved offensively. We've seen that. For the Saints, complete team in the NFL, most complete team in the NFL. All right, how do you expect the depleted Eagles secondary to hang on to the most efficient catcher in the NFL in Michael Thomas, the most efficient passer in the NFL in Drew Brees is Jesus? How do you expect to stop that two-headed monster in the backfield in Alvin Shinsuke Nakamura and Adrian Peterson Ingram? How you gonna stop them? How you plan to stop them? It's not happening. And what happened? Those defending world champs went out to New Orleans and they got absolutely thrashed. This Saints team is scary, especially if they play at home. Whoever has to play them at home, you're in some trouble, man. You're in trouble. That first week 1 loss to Fitzmagic, hey, let me tell you something. They may have won and put 48 on the Saints. The Saints had 40. If that defense was in line the way they are right now, this Saints team is undefeated. I said in the beginning of the season, I felt this Saints team has the opportunity to start the year and it's going to be one of those 8-0, 9-0, 10-0 situations. You're seeing it now. You're seeing them surge. You're seeing them get it together. This team is something serious. Now, granted, there might be a team that comes down the line and humble them. You never know. It might just happen. Or they can mess around and keep holding this momentum and they end the season 15-1, winning 15 straight. So we'll see how things play out. But for the Eagles, it's tough, man. It's tough. You're caught in the bottom area of your pack now in the NFC East. But you still have a chance. You guys going to have to come into a room. Peterson, Wentz, whether it's Foles out there, somebody gonna have to say something like, hey man, listen, what kind of team we want to be? Do we want to be the defending champions who end up not being able to get back to the postseason after winning the Super Bowl? Do I think last year was a fluke? I don't. I think the stars aligned. I think they played great football. This year, you're dealing with adversity week after week after week, but you gotta go out there and play football, man. Next up mentality. Guys gotta go and play. Your stars gotta go and perform, and their stars are not performing. Tough loss for the Eagles, great win for the Saints. Next Sunday Night Football, Bears taking on the Vikings. Vikings traveled out to Soldier Field. They lost 25-20. Family member Kirk Cousins, he's a franchise quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback that's going to help you win. All right, he's one of those guys who's going to be a starter for quite some time, similar to something like Matthew Stafford. He's going to be there. He's going to put his numbers up. You'll get some wins here and there. You're not going to the postseason to get that W. It's not going down like that. Why? Because granted, you may have been going against the Chicago Bears, but you saw Kirk family member make some bad passes, bad decisions, stuff like that. He probably should have had 2 more interceptions than what he had. All right, on the ground, he didn't get any help from Dalvin Cook. He had a couple of great runs here and there, and then all of a sudden, bam, he fumbled the ball when he ran into return of the Mac. Khalil Mack done took the ball out of his hand. His confidence dropped down through the drain. Adam Thielen, first 7 weeks of the season, this man was looking like all-pro, #1 receiver in the league, looking like an absolute beast. What happened the past couple of weeks? It hasn't been there. It hasn't been there. Stephon Diggs, extremely inconsistent the entire season. One game he's up here, the next 2 he's down there, next game he's up here, the next 3 he's down there. I don't know what I'm getting from that. Kyle Rudolph, pretty much been virtually not really existent the entire year. Defensively, the Vikings are still doing what they're doing. They're not the same defensive team as they were last year, the same force as they were last year, but they still took the ball out of the hands of Mitch Trubisky. They caught 2 interceptions. I believe it was Anthony Harris caught 2 picks, put him in a better position. I believe he brought it to the opposite side of the field on his second interception return. And what did the Vikings do with it? Nothing. Dan Bailey made his hit. He made his kicks when he had to. But defensively for the Bears, this team has a game breaker in a Khalil Mack, and moreover, their team, when they get turnovers, they turn it into points. They turned it into points, and those are the defenses that you gotta be worried about. Look at what Jacksonville did last year. Not only were they getting takeaways and forcing turnovers, when there's a reason why when they said Sacksonville, although they didn't lead the league in sacks, but when they did get those sacks, those forced fumbles, it turned to fumble recoveries for touchdowns. Those interceptions that they got, it turned to interceptions returned for touchdowns. This Bears team, when they're getting turnovers, they're turning it in to touchdowns, and that's what's scary about this team. If you gotta go and travel out to Chicago, it's going to be scary. Now, granted, they're not going to get that first round bye because the Rams and the Saints are so far ahead, and it doesn't seem like they're slowing down. The Bears are going to have to be that 3 seed because I don't think they're going to end up being 4, depending how things play out in the NFC East. But whoever's traveling to Soldier Field, you're going to have a rough time, man. With that defense, offensively, the Bears are still, when I'm feeling them, they end up going down. When I lose my confidence in them, they end up going up. So we'll see how things play out. Trubisky got to play better down the line, and they need to get their rushing game going, man. What's going on with Howard? What's going on with Cohen? Putting the ball on the ground. Can't do that. Can't do that. But good win for the Bears. And finally, Monday Night Football Instant Classic. Phenomenal game with the Rams and the Colts. Oh, I said Colts. Rams and the Chiefs. Phenomenal game. Stupendous. Offensively, defensively, they both give up a lot of yards. You already knew this coming in. But the names that needed to play on defense, they came to play outside of Ndamukong Suh. But Aaron Donald, game breaker, game changer, 2 forced fumbles. Bam, picked up 1 into the end zone. The other put the Rams in a position to go down the field and score. Marcus Peters, interception. Chiseled Adonis, what I tell you, he was going to catch a pick. LaMarcus Joyner, easy apple turnovers, other way. Patrick Mahomes threw 3 interceptions. He put the ball on the ground twice. However, Jared Goff, he put the ball on the ground twice as well. Justin Houston, bam, sack. Oh, all of a sudden, I'm in the end zone. We had 3 defensive touchdowns. Through the air, we had, 11? It was a wild game, man. It was a wild game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had to watch it yesterday morning because I couldn't watch it in its when it was live, so I did miss the game live. But watching it here in the morning in its entirety, I was excited. Only thing that I knew what happened in the game was just the final result, because when I woke up and I looked at my phone and said it at the bottom, I'm like, God, somebody spoiled it for me. But it was extremely stupendous. The receivers and the big names came to play. Tariq Hill, I don't know who's guarding that man. That man, it's unfair. That 73-yard touchdown that he had, nobody was in his area code. I said in the commentary, evidently somebody in Los Angeles must have went to the Dodge dealership and bought all the cars, because there were no Rams in sight. It was crazy. All right. And then on top of that, Travis Kelce, over 100 yards as well. Both of them had 10 catches, I believe. Travis Kelce into the end zone. For Jared Goff, Robert Woods was having a great game. Everett got into the end zone twice. Higbee had some good catches here and there. He did have that fumble where at first I said, wait a minute, maybe this catch is incomplete, but then we didn't get a real chance to really go and review. I don't think anybody tried to review it, so they went into the next play. So I was like, all right, we're rolling with it. But those guys came to play as well. Cooks didn't make too big of a factor, but he had a big pass interference down the field. Also, he had a couple of catches here and there, and I think he had one run for a first down as well. And this Rams team, it's well-oiled machine, man. Well-oiled machine. Todd Gurley didn't even have a great game. He was banged up, and they still put up those numbers. Because you saw in the first half, he got hit a couple of times, and you saw he was running a little bit different. So we'll see how things play out. Maybe the amount of touches that he's getting throughout the season, it could have possibly weighed on him. So we'll see how things play out down the line. But they need that man in the lineup. But this game was one of the best games I've ever seen. For my money, it's up there with the past couple of Super Bowls. Also, the regular season, that game out in Dallas where the Cowboys took on the Broncos, 2013. Tony Romo taking on Peyton Manning. That was a great game as well. So yeah, this was up there. It wasn't Monday Night Football. I believe it was like Sunday afternoon, like 4 something in the afternoon, because when you play in Texas, they always get the 4 o'clock game. But nonetheless, great game. Great game, both sides. But Mahomes, you can't be throwing those balls up. Because the last 2 interceptions, I don't know who he was trying to throw it to. I don't know how much arm strength he was trying to show off. Similar to maybe, I think, beginning of the year when they played against Atlanta and Mahomes launched the ball in stride and caught Hill deep. So we'll see how he was going to try to make that pass. But both those last 2 interceptions, inexcusable. You can't try to make that pass. Granted, he was hit on, I believe it was the first one that ended up getting intercepted by Marcus Peters, but you got to make better decisions, man. He reminds me a lot of Favre regarding his gunslinging ability. He's always ready to show off his big arm. But yeah, good win for the Rams. Now, remember, before I end up getting out of here, we do have that promotion over at MyBookie.AG regarding the Thursday game between the Lions and the Bears. Got a free opportunity to go and win you some money, up to $250. If you do lose, you can get that all back. So go and use that. I'll leave all the links in the description below. I can't remember how I ended this before the video cut off before. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. All right, so this has been your 2018 NFL Week 11 post-game coverage analysis. I'm obviously the host of the show. Nobody else has been here. I'm the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. You guys enjoy your last day before Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if you're gonna have a huge, feast with your family. I know I'm not. I'm gonna have a lot of bread and ice, because that's what happens when you're out here struggling. But nonetheless, this ain't about me. I'm headed back to the Shadow Realm. You guys enjoy your Wednesday, and stay tuned for tomorrow, because I will have the pregame picks early in the morning. I'm thinking maybe about 9 a.m. and I'll continue to keep you briefed on how you can win some money with MyBookie.AG. But I'm headed out of here.